Hi, I'm Susan Honda. I'm the Council President for the Federal Way City Council. Today I'm going to talk about the City Council, our description, our purpose, and our goals. The City Council is made up of 7 citizens from the City of Federal Way. We are elected by the people of Federal Way. Every 2 years there's an election. 1 year, 4 council members are elected, and the next time 3 council members are elected, along with the mayor of the City of Federal Way. We meet on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month here at City Hall, and we also have council committees. They meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday, along with the 1st Monday of the month. The public is always welcome and encouraged to attend our meetings. The City Council is the legislative body of the city. We work on creating policy. We review and pass the city budget. We levy taxes, and we pass ordinances and resolutions. The council has 4 council committees. These committees are made up of 3 council members. The council president will appoint 3 council members to each committee, and then the council president will appoint a chair of each committee. We have one committee called FEDRAC, and it's Finance, Economic Development, and Regional Affairs. Our next committee is LUTC, which is Land Use and Transportation. Our 3rd committee has a really long name. We usually just call it Parks, but it covers parks, recreation, public safety, and human services. And then our 4th committee is a little bit different. It's called LTAC, and it's Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. There's 1 council member on that committee as a chair, and then several citizens from the city also serve on that committee. Every year, the City Council holds a retreat, and at the retreat, we spend time and create goals. And our goals include public safety, economic development, maintaining our infrastructure and what we need to do to maintain the infrastructure, and working with our homeless population. It is truly an honor to be a council member. We appreciate your trust, and we really work hard to earn your trust. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lydia Safa, and I'm on the City Council for the City of Federal Way. Today, I want to talk about the census. I'm sure you've heard about Census 2020. So what exactly is the census? So every 10 years, every person who lives in the country has to be counted. And when I say everyone, it means every single person, young or old, woman or man, citizen or non-citizen, and it doesn't matter where you were born. It's about you living here in the country. And so why does it matter? Number 1, when we're counted, we get money from the federal government that helps our community. Our community is your schools, our police departments, our fire stations, the roads that we drive on, the bridges that we cross. Everything takes money, and that money comes from the federal government. And also, if we're not counted, we won't get what is rightfully ours. That means we'll have less money to do the work that we always enjoy doing and that we have to do, especially for you as students. The second one is being counted is where we send people to Washington, D.C., to the Congress to represent our community. So when we're properly counted, we get the number of people that we need that will go on our behalf, that would advocate for our communities, that help us get the things done that we need, again, in our city and our community. And so that is very important, because otherwise we won't have enough people who go to Washington, D.C. and who speak for us. And also, I want you to know that being counted is really safe. And so the information that you provide is confidential. It doesn't go anywhere. It is only used for this purpose, to where really they are giving us the money that we need for our community. So I hope you do understand the benefits of being counted. I hope you understand Why it's important? Because again, if you want better schools, if you want your teachers to be well-trained, before and after school programs, reduced and free lunches or meals that schools provide, everything takes money. And that money comes to us because we are counted. And so remember, if you're not counted, the money that should come to us is not going to come to us. But also, if you don't fill the form that is in your house, and if you don't complete that, some people will be coming to your house at some point after the stay at home and shelter in place is over with. They'll be knocking on your door, and they're there to help you do the work. They're there to help you fill the form. It doesn't take long, but what I want to say is if they do come to your door, make sure they have the appropriate badge because they are there to help you. So be counted. It's very important. And if you need more information, you can go to www.census.gov. Thank you very much, and be counted.
Hello, my name is Greg Brusso. I'm a city council member in the city of Federal Way. Do you know what the United States Constitution is? Basically, it's the laws of our national government, and it contains rights for all that live here. As a city council member, our office is here in City Hall. Those that represent us in the 50 states, their office is our nation capital, Washington, D.C. So you're probably wondering as to how those people get to represent us in our states. The U.S. Constitution contains 27 amendments. Amendments are nothing but changes. It's like when you're writing a paper, you change the sentence. When you're drawing something, you make a change on your drawing. You're just basically making an amendment. That's all that is. The 50th Amendment of the United States Constitution gives you the right to vote. Do you plan to vote when you grow up? If you want to vote, you first must register to vote. Registering is your way, and it shows people that you are exercising your right to vote, that 15th Amendment. In our state, when you turn 16 or 17, you can sign up as a future voter, and when you turn 18, you automatically are registered to vote. The 15th Amendment gives you that right to vote. We live in the United States, a country where you're afforded that freedom of choice. There are some countries where people live, they can't even vote. In Saudi Arabia, women don't even have the right to vote. Citizens of Zimbabwe and South Africa, in Southern Africa, they can't vote because for 7 years now, the country can't afford to hold an election. In the countries of Guatemala, in Central America, in the Dominican Republic, and in the Caribbean, if you belong to the armed forces like the Army or the Navy, you can't vote. You can stand up and be counted. You can make changes. You can't make changes if you don't want to vote. You can't make changes if you don't want to get rid of the problems that you feel are plaguing us. But you can make a difference. Don't ever let anyone tell you that voting or whatever you do doesn't make a difference. Age isn't a barrier. According to one study in 2008 elections, 84% of youth 18 to 29 years old that registered to vote did. They made their voices count. What prevents you from voting? You prevent yourself from voting. You have the power. You have the choices. In voting, you have the power to tell everyone who you want to represent us in different states. Don't let others ever tell you that your vote doesn't make a difference. You are our future leaders. You are our future leaders in Olympia, in our state capital. You are our future leaders here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Remember, voting is not a privilege, it's a right. Privileges are like your cell phone or your gaming when you're up there all day and your mom and dad tell you to stop. What do? They take it away from you. It's your privilege, they say. But voting is a right. You have the right to vote. Have you seen your parents vote and how they make those decisions? By voting, your parents are saying, I am making that choice. This is my freedom. I am going by the rights I have, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, to say, yes, here's who I want. Here's the issues that I want to go through. Here are the folks I want to represent me in my state. Your parents vote on different things, not just elected officials, like myself or anyone else on our council, but voting for schools. They can vote on building new schools. They can vote on technology, like the computers and other things you use in your classes day in and day out. I remember turning 16 and getting a driver's license. And I know that everyone out there is probably dreaming about that. That time comes when you turn 16 and you get your car and you get a license, you go where you want. The freedom of having to go where you want, visiting your friends, listening to what you want, going to the beach in the summertime, just enjoying everything you do with your friends. Now, in a couple years, you're going to turn 18. I remember when I turned 16, great, license, okay, I got it, I'm driving around, but when I turned 18, responsibility came to me. Responsibility of voting. It was more important to me, really, when it comes down to it, because I have a voice now. I can tell folks, look, this is my choice that I have, and this is what I want to do. It's my right. It's afforded to me by the U.S. Constitution. As I get older, as you get older, remember, and I did too, this is my choice that I made, and it's a freedom that I have. You can make that difference. You have the power. You are our future leaders. You are our future leaders in City Hall, in Olympia, in Washington, D.C. Use that right and be our future leaders. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mark Kopang, member of the Federal Way City Council and chair of the Land Use and Transportation Committee. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about taxes and how tax dollars work in our community. But before I do that, and I know that sounds really boring, before I do that though, I want to tell you a story. Back in the 6th grade, I had a good friend, Gary Shapiro. And Gary and I, every once in a while, used to get, if we got a quarter, we'd walk to the 7-Eleven or ride our bikes to 7-Eleven, and we'd buy a Reese's peanut butter cup pack. And there's always 2 Reese's peanut butter cups in that pack. So he would get one and I would get one. And that was a good partnership for us because we both liked Reese's peanut butter cups, and dividing the pack was really easy. And as I thought back on that partnership, and what I appreciated about that was we didn't really worry about who was going to come up with the quarter, because that wasn't the important thing. The important thing was the adventure of going to the store and the benefit that came with having the Reese's peanut butter cup to share. Taxes, funnily enough, are a lot like that in the respect that we really are, as a community, in partnership with one another. And while we can't necessarily always do the things that we need to do with the finances as a group, as a community, and as a city, we can. And those benefits show up in different ways in our community. I want to talk to you a little bit about those. But before I talk about the benefits, I want to just remind you how those taxes do come to us as a city and as a county and as a state. One way they come, and I think it's a way that all of you probably have participated in, is through sales tax. When you buy something for $10, you have to pay $11 for it because there's $1 of taxes. And that $1 of tax goes to different things. Among them would be the improvement of infrastructure within our city. As you grow older and go to work, eventually, what you'll find out when you do a calculation on your dollars per hour earned and your paycheck, you'll find out there's a big difference between what you thought you were going to earn and what you actually do get to take home. That difference is the taxes that you pay to help make our country, our county, our state, county, and city work. So all of us working together really can make a huge difference. And that shows up in our community in different ways. One of the ways that I think is obviously the most fun is our park system. Federal Way has a wonderful park system, and Federal Way spends millions of dollars on parks, has spent millions of dollars on parks over the years for a couple different reasons. The first reason is that we believe that being able to enjoy recreation is something that everyone should be able to do. We never charge anybody to go to our parks. We never charge anyone to be able to use any element of the park. The parks are there for everyone. And I think one of the most satisfying things I got to experience both as a commissioner for the Parks and Recreation Commission, but also as a council member, was being a part of the Town Square Park. I was a member of the committee that worked on identifying the play structures for that new park at Town Square. And one of my favorites was the zip glider. I can tell you that seeing people use that zip glider just brings a smile to my heart. But again, could you have bought that? Could I have bought that? No, but together we did. And people that we don't even know in 10 years will be able to enjoy that because of the contributions we made together. Another example of our tax dollars at work is our roads. Now, roads and actually sidewalks as well. I would say that roads and sidewalks are very important to our community. If we didn't have good roads and sidewalks, transportation would be very challenging. So I think that while we don't necessarily like taxes, taxes are a valuable component of our community's partnership with one another and allow us to do things together that we couldn't do as individuals. So I hope the next time you go to a park or the next time you drive on the road in your parents' car or walk on the sidewalk, you recognize that in some way you contributed it to that street, that sidewalk, or that park, and you are a partner in our community as well. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. And if you have any questions, you can email me at mark.kopang@cityoffederalway.com. I look forward to hearing from any of you that have more questions. Thanks again.
Hi there, my name is Martin Moore, and I'm excited to be one of your city council members. A fun fact about me is that I was adopted from Bulgaria at the age of 8. When I came here, I didn't know how to speak English whatsoever. Today, I have been blessed to be a Federal Way council member for the last 7 years. Every day I get to work with 6 other council members on rules and laws within the city of Federal Way. I serve on 2 committees. The first committee is called the Land Use and Transportation Committee. The second committee is called the Public Issues Committee. That committee is a really important committee because it brings all of these voices to the county level. So once a month, I get to meet with 30+ other elected officials, and I get the opportunity to listen to what other cities' concerns are. And I'm excited about the opportunity to work with all of those other elected officials together on policies, maybe state laws, or issues like transportation or homelessness, or even taxes. It's really exciting to come together at the county level and work together and listen to one another. And it's really neat to see one another show respect. And so by working together, we make a really loud voice and unison. And that means your top leaders have to listen to us. And that's really important to work together, so that we can amplify our voices to the county executive on issues impacting the county, or issues or state laws that we have concerns with, and we get to amplify our voice to the governor's office. You see, by working together and listening and respecting one another, we can really get a lot done for you. All the issues we work on affect you, your parents, and maybe your friends. So that's what I get to do every single day, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to work together with my colleagues here, but also work with the county leaders to make our voices amplified on your behalf. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to speak to you today. My name is Linda Kochmar. I'm a Federal Way City Council member. And before that, I was a state representative in Olympia. And before that, I was your mayor in 2010. I've spoken to elementary school students on a regular basis, especially when you came to Olympia with your 4th and 5th grade classes to find out about the history of Olympia. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history of Federal Way. Federal Way was formed as a logging settlement in the 1800s. That was when loggers would come in with great big saws, and one person on each end of the saw would saw down a huge cedar tree. And then they would take the cedar trees out by horse and buggy wagon. Or they would take it down to areas like Redondo and send it out on a boat to where they wanted it to go. By about the 1900s, mid-1900s, beginning of 1900s, Fort Lewis was formed, and Fort Lewis would send their get supplies from Seattle, and they would use what they called caissons, and they would be a horse-drawn wagon called a caisson, and they would go into Seattle, get supplies, and bring it back to Fort Lewis, which is just south of Tacoma. They would use a road that they eventually called the Military Road, and then they used another road that they called the Federal Way. In about the 1940s, which is about World War II era, Federal Way School District was formed. They called it School District number 210. 5 districts were formed, and they called it the Federal Way School District. And from there, they built the old Federal Way High School on Federal Way, the old Federal Way Road, which is now Pacific Highway South. Come about that time, Weyerhaeuser was building their corporate office building to sell timber products, and they wanted to have their employees live in a place that was close to where their corporate office was, so they built West Campus. Their idea was to build a place where their employees could live, work, and play, and have it be a safe place for them to live. About 1950, the Federal Way Chamber of Commerce decided to use the name Federal Way as the name of the Chamber of Commerce, and eventually the area be called Federal Way. In 1997, there were a series of votes. There were about 3 or 4 votes before there was a successful vote to incorporate the city of Federal Way. I was privileged to be a part of the successful incorporation committee that then formed the city of Federal Way. At that time, Federal Way was about 50,000 citizens. Today, we are 97,000 citizens. We formed the city because we wanted to have a say in how our city would be operated. We had apartments that were being built everywhere on roads that went nowhere. And so we formed the city. We had council members and a city manager form of government. And from there, we opened our own police department and our very own municipal court. We have very many ways for you to get involved. One of them is called the Youth Commission, so that when you're in high school, you can join what we call our Youth Commission and make recommendations on how to improve our parks and how to improve life for our teenagers. So I want to encourage you to get involved in your city. Your city is here to serve you, It's a very difficult time right now because we're in the middle of the pandemic crisis, COVID-19, and so we're not able to have open public meetings yet. But when we do, especially when you're in your 4th and 5th grades, be sure to come to City Hall and sit in on a council meeting. Find out how your city operates. We have 7 council members. We now have a mayor. And we have many, many different commissions, from planning to parks, that make recommendations to the City Council, along with the Youth Commission, about how to operate your city. I hope that you will get involved. And please remember that when you are in high school, that you can apply to be a aide in Olympia. And as such, you go to Olympia for a week with the permission of your school, and you get paid. You get to be an intern in Olympia, and you get paid $250 for the week. So be sure to look into that, because that's going to look wonderful on your resume when you go for a job or when you go on to college. So thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope that you take the time to get involved in your city, and if you also get involved in your school, your church, and your community, that's just as good. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you.